Hello, everyone. This is Janae, and we are going to do a grad student interview. As you can see, she's packing. I won't show you everything, but there you go. So she's packing to leave. So let's ask some quick questions.
I went to college at West Virginia Wesleyan College in West Virginia, particularly Buchanan, West Virginia. They sent me a postcard when I was applying to all of my other schools, and the school looked really pretty on the postcard, so I figured I'd send them my information. And then they sent me an application, and I filled it out, and they were the first ones that accepted me out of all my schools. And then I went to visit, and I walked into the chapel and fell in love with it and decided to go. And by, you know, God's design, they gave me the most money, and I decided to go, and I haven't regretted it. My original major was psychology, and I stuck with it, but halfway through, about my sophomore year, I decided to pick up English as a second major, and then I knew I wanted to pick up a minor, and at first it was going to be women's studies, but I decided against that. And then I got pulled into theater by a acquaintance, and he asked me to be an assistant stage manager for the Apple Tree, and that was my first introduction to theater on the other side, aside from being a theater goer, if you will, an audience member, and that kind of sucked me in. And then by my junior year, I decided I wanted to do theater full time. I added musical theater as a minor and dropped English to a minor, and then I graduated with a degree in psychology with a minor in musical theater. I am going to the University of Iowa in Iowa City, Iowa. I was originally only going to apply to 4 schools in California, but I kept getting this feeling like it wasn't enough, and there's this organization called ERDAs, which is the Unified Resident Theater Auditions, which is a group. It's pretty much I call it a festival, where a whole bunch of grad programs, particularly theater grad programs, will go to California, particularly San Francisco, Chicago, and New York, and they will audition actors, they will audition directors, they'll have meetings with set designers, um, what have you, and then you'll have callbacks, and then after that, you keep conversations going with schools that are interested in you, and that's how I found Iowa. And when I auditioned for them, I fell in love with them, and I wanted to go there, and they fell in love with me, and that's pretty much how that went. And then they wound up giving me the most money again, and I had to go.
Sounds really, really good.
It matters. I don't. The funny thing is I don't feel intimidated until I see other black people there, because what it becomes is that you see different kinds of types, and what certain people are looking for. Like, you'll have certain types, certain women that look like they could play like the strong mother, and then they have types like me that play like either the really quiet girl or like the really like sexy strong person. And so I only feel intimidated when I see competition, but then what happens is I just remember that we're all our own competition, and you never know what the casting directors are looking for, and you go in and you do 100%, and then at the end of the day, you walk out and say, did I do all I could do? And if that answer is yes, then that's it. And I like seeing other black people, and I like seeing people in theater, because we're all a little bit crazy, because you have to be crazy to deal with that amount of rejection. But I like being in that environment, and I recognize that there are not as many, ethnicities in this particular type of work, but we're making our way up there, and I like being one of the ones, so it's fun, and I like it. My advice would be to first make sure it's something that you want to do um, wholeheartedly, and I mean that, like, I call them the dreamer actors that say, oh, I want to be an actor, and they kind of have this sound in their voice of whimsy, and like, oh, they're just going to be famous. But that's not what an actor is. An actor is there to tell a story, and to serve a bigger purpose, and to educate and be there for people, make connections with the audience, and you're going to face a lot of rejection. There's more no's to it than yeses, but when you get a yes, those no's don't matter, and you have to remember that those no's don't mean that you're bad. It just means that for right now you're not right for that production or whatever the case may be. But that doesn't mean that those same casting directors won't see you 3 years later when they're casting for another show and be like, oh, you're perfect this time. So make sure that you really, really, really want to do it. And if there are people who are opposing you, like your family and friends, and I was thankful enough to not have that problem, they're not the ones that you have to prove it to. And they're not the ones living your life. You are living it yourself. And when you are on your deathbed and you look back and say, do I regret things? I hope you don't, because if this is something that you want to do, try it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but you won't die with that regret, and you will know that it wasn't other people that held you back. So try it, but make sure you go into it with resilience and an open mind and an open heart, and you will be amazed at all the places you'll go. And people who I regret, I don't want to call it a regret because it is a strong word, but I would say that not starting early enough. I was the one that kept telling myself no and being afraid. I could have really gotten into it, my sophomore year and really, really gone for it. But I was a little bit timid. But at the same time, I had to learn a few lessons, and I had to really come to terms with the decision that I was going to make. So I don't exactly regret it, but it'd have been nice to start a little bit earlier. But where I'm at now is just fine. So I think that's the only thing that I would have done differently. And I'll go off on a slight tangent. Last summer when I was in California at the Summer Rep Theater in Santa Rosa, we were doing traditional rep, which was 5 shows in rotating order going on at the same time. And the first night, the first opening of the whole season was Hairspray. And I remember being backstage, feeling the energy, and crying a little bit because I just knew that I wanted to do this. And I was so thankful to God that He allowed that to happen, and I was able to just do theater, just do it all day, every day, even though I was tired. That is where I'd love to see myself. It's not about getting awards, and I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't want to get a Tony or an Oscar or Emmy or what have you, but I want to do theater so bad, and I want to do TV, I want to do all of it, that when I see people doing it, I cry, because I'm like, I just want to do it, just not to be famous, I just want to do it, because when I'm on that stage, something happens, and I'm happier, and I'm free, and that's the dream for me. So after grad school, I just want to work. That's all I want to do. I just want to work.
Our grad student interview, more to come. Janae, thank you so much for being just a great person.
Thank you.
We won't get mushy on camera, but all right, hon. Bye.
Bye.